This suggests what is the evidence of a transformed school. I think there's a prior question that comes to it. What's the nature of the transformation that is sought? So identifying clearly what it is that we want to achieve. What's the transformation? How will we know when we've reached that transformation? And let's seek modest goals in that regard. You know, modest, achievable goals. And then what are the practices that we'll put in place in order to achieve those things? And so that's a classic alignment framework, Basil Bernstein's 3 message systems of schooling, alignment of curriculum, pedagogy and assessment. And I think that any efforts at transformation need to have those 3 things lined up really clearly. So what is it that we want to achieve? How are we going to know when we've got there? And what are the practices that will allow us to put those things into place? And I think when you are engaged in that kind of alignment process, when you think about that alignment with your colleagues, what you want to achieve narrows down. You become a little bit more realistic if you make sure whenever you have the conversation about transformation, you have hand in hand with that the conversation about how we're going to know and what are our practices going to be. And I think it's a way of keeping to scale and manageable what it is that you try and take on.
I'd add, because I don't want to detract from Deb's comments, I think they're right, I'd add who's asking. In other words, whose purposes is a transformation taking place? Whose interests are served by the particular transformation that's imagined? I think actually, if you think about it this way, if you continue to do what you're doing, you know what the outcome's going to be. You can almost predict, if you keep going down the track, what the outcome will be. So that says to me, well, I've got to do something different. I've got to take a risk. If I can give an example, I was in the UK recently doing a bit of a study tour, and I went to a small primary school in Leeds. Very poor area, Leeds. It's some of the lowest SES areas in the country. A little school called Little London Community Primary School. There are Little London schools everywhere over England. If you know that, anyway. This school was at the bottom of the heap on any kind of indicators that you want to name. The principal came in and transformed the school. Now, how did that happen? She didn't focus on all of those indicators, and she got her staff to not think about those indicators, think about what their main purpose was, to work with the students in that particular context. They transformed the thinking of the kids to become researchers. The students were researchers. They referred to them as researchers, researching their context, their communities, bringing in the Irish community club to talk about Ireland, even though a number of the people weren't Irish, but there was an Irish club there, researching that, researching whatever was in their community, becoming inquisitive. That school last year was the 4th most improved school in Leeds.
I also want to just refer you to some really good quality research in this area that's been really informed my practice and my understanding. And it's by Annette LaRue, who is an American sociologist. She has written a book, she's written many things, but her book called Unequal Childhoods is worth reading. She does 2 very detailed case studies of a number of case studies of working class families and middle income families in the US. I think the context is really similar, and I think it's just to unpack that whole question a bit more, that would be a good reference point for any of you that want to explore that question more.
Chapter 8 of the book that Carmen and I have written talks about this very issue, about why parents don't participate in schooling. You know, what are the reasons that they put up about why they're not participating? And I think that's a good place to begin to think about this issue.